This is David Avocado Wolf of davidwolf.com, and you are listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio.
Well, Kate, I couldn't think of a more timely show about stress than this time of year, right?
Gosh, a lot of people, we're all feeling the same way. We're all feeling it, aren't we?
The holiday season, right?
It starts.
Yes.
You're right. This is perfect.
Stay tuned, everybody. We're going to be introducing Paul Huljich in just a moment. We're going to talk about his book called The Stress Pandemic, and we think it's going to be a great show. And personally, I think that stress is at the heart of all health conditions.
I know. We've been talking about that for a while. I tend to believe with you.
All comes down to stress and energy. So this is going to be a good show. We're going to talk about some lifestyle solutions to help you overcome your stress and the stress of buying gifts during the holiday season and living your life in today's modern world. So it should be a great show. We're really excited to have Paul Huljich on. We'll be introducing him, like I said, in just a moment. My name is Justin, and this is my wife,
Kate. As always, hello, everyone.
As always. And she'll be taking notes today. And this is episode number 182. So if you're interested in checking out the show notes, any websites, or anything that Paul mentions during the show, she'll take notes for you and be the gracious note taker.
Oh, thank you. And I will also I also have the chat room up right in front of me. So if anybody wants to send a question in for our guest, for Paul today, I will be reading those and checking those as well.
That's right. We are live now, broadcasting worldwide, live in over 150 countries. And you can listen to our live show on extremehealthradio.com/live. And you can enter the chat room and ask your questions that way and listen as the show's happening. So it's a great feature we've just added. And if you'd like to join the show, lots of different ways to do that. You can email me, Justin, at extremehealthradio.com.
Or Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com.
And you can also click on the voicemail tab that's on the right side of our website and record a pre-recorded message straight from your computer. And if you guys would like to support us and keep our shows free, all of our shows are free. We don't charge anything for any of the things we do. We just sell great products, and one of the great ways that we support ourselves is through Amazon. So if you would like to go through our link and support us on Amazon this holiday season or anytime, you can just click on the link on our website or go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, and that will redirect you. You can bookmark that and use that every time you make a purchase, and that will ensure the shows stay free for everybody else who can't afford to pay. So that's what we do, and that's one of the ways we support ourselves. So we thank you, everyone who's been doing that. And it looks like we have Vani Hari from foodbabe.com coming up pretty soon.
You're right. That's tomorrow.
Yeah, lots of good guests coming up.
Yeah.
Lots of great people coming on. I'm really excited about having her on. She's doing a lot of great work at foodbabe.com. And then we have, after that, Dr. Patrick Vickers, who's going to explain to Kate what the heck's coming out of her body when she does coffee enemas. Right?
Oh, you know how excited I get about that subject.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be an amazing show.
He's with the GersonTreatment.com, and he works with people with cancer using the Gerson therapy, coffee enemas, and lots of good stuff like that. And then we have Sydney Ross Singer for part 2 of our sleep series with him. And that's going to be a great show. If you haven't heard that episode, the part 1, definitely want to check that out. And today, we are honored and privileged to have Paul Huljich on, who is a lifestyle and wellness expert, and he's written a book called The Stress Pandemic, The Lifestyle Solution. And if anyone has ever been stressed, I would say it would be him, because he co-founded the Best Corporation, which is a pioneering organic food company, and he was the joint CEO and chairman of that, which was a $100 million company. So I'm sure if anyone can deal with stress and has learned how to deal with stress in their lives, it's Mr. Paul Huljich. So thank you, Paul, for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, excellent. So whereabouts are you located?
Well, at the moment, I'm in Marina Del Rey in Los Angeles here.
Okay.
But for the last 4 years, I was living on the Granite Rock in New York City.
The Granite Rock, that's a good way to put it. I like it.
I've never heard that.
So what made you move out to L.A.?
Well, I went to New York to put myself in a very intense environment where there's constant stimulation, intensity of people living in a close, well, it's one of the most intense cities in the world. So I thought I'll go and live there for 4 years, put myself in a one-bedroom apartment and live like all New Yorkers and see how the lifestyle solution deals with it. And it was a very good experience. But I've always been a fan of California. I used to live here in Santa Monica a number of years ago and always like crunching my feet on the sand on Santa Monica Beach and see the dolphins and seals.
Oh, I love it. And you're originally from New Zealand, is that right?
Yes, I was born and raised there, and I've always has a fascination with the United States. I came here actually on my honeymoon many years ago, and I was 24 at the time, and I've always enjoyed coming here frequently, and at the moment I'm living here in Marina Del Rey.
Oh,
yeah,
can't get much better than that.
Yeah, we are half Kiwi ourselves, or I am actually. And,
is that right?
Yeah, I have family. I have family over off Auckland on Waiheke Island.
Oh yeah, Waiheke Island's an amazing spot. I'm from Auckland too, and I used to water ski around and do a lot of boating around Waiheke Island, and it's just a magical spot. The climate's amazing here on Waiheke, and it's got a lot of amazing wines to taste and enjoy.
Oh, does it? I didn't try any of the wines there. I did some hiking there. And
that's why we're going to need to go back.
Yeah.
Or you need to take me, rather.
I know. It's a beautiful spot. And so that's interesting you had a fascination with the United States, because when I go over there, even to Australia, most people aren't interested in the United States. They're more interested in Canada.
Well, that's part of the old system of the colony, and but I think, I've always enjoyed America, and that's where my dream started as a teenager. I sort of adopted the American dream when I was a teenager through watching many movies and television shows, because we're quite isolated in those days down there, and that's when I decided, I would like to be a success, work hard, live in a lovely environment, be able to travel, have a nice car, and be my own boss.
Interesting. So, did you co-found the best corporation down in New Zealand at the time?
Yes, I did. I had a number of businesses, and over the years I worked very, very hard and had many businesses, and I liked turning lemons into lemonade, giving businesses new lease of life, new direction, a vision, and help motivate a team around me. But it was around about the age of 40 that I thought I had the perfect dream. As you said, I was the chairman, CEO of a multi-million-dollar pioneering organic food company that was listed on the stock exchange, and I had just built, for the people I love most, a really wonderful mansion, and of course I had the Ferrari and Porsche parked in the driveway, and I thought to myself, I've made it. But due to stress and making poor lifestyle choices, I lost everything. Most of all, my freedom. But I fought back, I survived, and I've never felt better or stronger. And that was 15 years ago.
That was 15 years ago, and at the time you were pretty switched on because you were into organic foods, right? And so did food play a factor in your initial research into how to overcome your stress?
Yes, I had actually always been a bit of a health person. I felt many years ago when I pioneered organic foods in the early 80s that a lot of what we eat and drink is actually toxic and is actually affecting us. And I used to talk many times about making organic things, making them more natural. And we did pick on the number of industries that we improved. Like, we were one of the first globally to come out with 98% fat-free ham. I was always very conscious of keeping nitrates and additives to a minimum. But some of these products really affect the neurochemistry, especially when your stress response has been activated. And I became a big victim of it, because even though I was health conscious and I was quite athletic, but over the years I put on a bit of a pot belly and I didn't know that I was into crap, excuse the language a bit. That stands for caffeine, refined sugar, alcohol, and processed foods and drinks. And even though I had an amazing team around me, the top doctors, the top trainers, and, you know, I had everything at my home. It was a 30,000 square foot home. I had squash courts, tennis courts, 25-yard indoor pool, large outdoor. I had everything. So you can't say I wasn't trying to maintain my health. I was trying very hard. And I couldn't understand why I was losing the battle.
What were some of the things that you were having to experience that let you know that this was all caused by stress? I guess you would know that you were stressed, wouldn't you?
Yes, and when we all get stressed, I think anyone who's sensible, you should reach out for help, all right? Because if those symptoms don't go away, you're being very foolish, because stress can cause very serious issues for you long term, and it's very dangerous. So my symptoms were initially grinding of the teeth. And when that happened, of course I reached out to help. I had a sore jaw, and I had insomnia. My circadian rhythm was a bit shot. I used to do a lot of shift work over the years. I used to travel different time zones, and I think that affected me, my neurochemistry, a lot. And I also, over time, started to have a bit of a dull feeling in my tummy. And of course I went to the psychiatrist as well. I reached out to the doctor initially, my general practitioner, and I took sleeping tablets. Why not? Everybody has, takes them. So here I was wearing a mouth guard at night, which is not very romantic when you go to bed. And then I was having to take sleeping tablets, whether I was taking flights or whether I was having meetings or late nights because of business or whatever. But I thought, hey, everybody else does, so it must be okay. But over time, I not only had a dull feeling, I started to develop anxiety, and I started to develop depression. And of course I went to a top psychiatrist, one of the 3 top rated in the country. And of course I went on medication. I was very, I was prepared to take any medication if it would help me win this battle with stress. But no matter what the psychiatrist gave me, and no matter what the advice was to train more, give up business, which I did. I actually gave up being the joint CEO. I limited, and I went on holidays. I took up, I took up yoga, meditation, and I kept wondering, why am I still losing this battle? Why am I having to take more medication, stronger medication, until one day it got so serious, I was lying in bed in the fetal position in total darkness, afraid of the whole world, afraid to talk to anyone or see anyone, and felt so cold that even if I got up and had a bath, I still felt cold. And when my former wife asked me, what do you want to eat or what do you want to wear, I couldn't even make that decision.
Wow, gosh, that's
and from
stress.
there, yeah.
That's stress that most people don't experience, that kind of stress.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to go that far. From there, I became a runaway train very quickly, whereby I had mood swings, I had paranoia. I can't remember that I rang people in the middle of the night and other country time zones. I did all sorts of strange things until one day I was with my son, who was very concerned about my health, but my former wife was, and all three sons were very concerned. I went to a restaurant with him, and when they asked me, "What do you want?" I couldn't even talk. The body was actually now speeding up the closing down system, whereby the mind was closing down. Now the body was, because I couldn't speak. That's how bad it got. And from there, I had a complete mental breakdown where I had bizarre behaviour, like stripping off to my underpants in a boardroom, giving out $100 bills at the local gas station, which I never went back to afterwards. It was so embarrassing. And then on the day, I actually thought I could walk on water, and I felt I was blessing everyone, because if you believe in faith to any degree, that's a last bastion. You know, a lot of us, when we lose complete control and can't remember a lot of what I did that day, to this day I can't remember a lot of what I did. It was that embarrassing.
And how old were you at the time?
Terrifying. Pardon?
And how old were you at the time?
46, 47.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
46, I think, yeah.
And you know what's scary about all of that is that even though your symptoms are probably much greater than most people, the type of lifestyle you were leading is just an average lifestyle for a lot of people, right?
Well, it is. And when they called out the crisis team, because my mother, my former wife, my brothers, my children, everybody, they had to call out the crisis team. I lost all my rights. They took away, they froze all my bank accounts. All contracts were null and void. My credit cards were taken off me and my passport. And I was made a ward of the state. I had no rights, none. That's what happens. That's what happens in most countries throughout the world. It's kept very quiet when it happens, because it's such a dramatic experience. But all countries have certain laws where you, as soon as they can say that you're a danger to yourself or others, you can lose all your rights.
Wow.
So that's what happened to you, and
yes.
And so is that about the time you came back came over to the U.S.?
Yes. Once I got my rights back, I said to all the doctors, well, I put all my faith with you, no disrespect to you. And, you know, a lot of people told me, well, if you want a second opinion, go over to Australia. And I said, no. I've heard of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and I've heard of many people, even though they're very patriotic to their own country, they go to that place, you know, kings, royalty, and people and presidents of countries. And I thought, well, I'm going to go there. So I flew there with my former wife and family, and I had the brief was to all the doctors, I want every medical test within reason on both the mind and the body. I thought, I'm going to go to America. And I'll get a cure, because due to stress, all the doctors in New Zealand said there's no cure. I'm sorry, Mr. Huljich. Due to stress over many years, because you've had a complete mental breakdown and you've had a severe experience of it, you've got a very severe condition of bipolar disorder. I thought, you know, what do you mean there's no cure?
Right.
And they said, oh, you'll have to be on medication for the rest of your life. And I thought, yeah, but you're saying there's no cure. What do you mean by that? Well, we don't know when, but Mr. Huljich, you're going to have relapses. And I said, why would I have relapses if I'm on medication? And they said, well, you've got a chemical imbalance, and the medication won't always work, and we might have to change the drug or whatever. And I said, well, that's not much good to me. I said, doctor, if I came to you with a broken leg, you're more or less giving me medication for the pain. But I said, what about healing it? I said, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. So in the end, I went to the Mayo Clinic and I had all the tests, but the head psychiatrist there said, look, I'm sorry, Mr. Huljich, there's no cure. And that's when I said, look, if I was your son or your brother, can you direct me to a place where I'll find out all answers for addictions, for anxiety, depression, anger, guilt, bipolar, everything. I want to know everything. And I said, please do not send me to a fashionable rehab, because I always hear of the celebrities going to them, but it's like a revolving door. They keep coming back.
Right. It's interesting, too, about your story, how you stepped down from being the co-founder and the CEO of the corporation, and you said you started to take vacations, you started doing yoga and meditation and all these things, and you're still having this stress syndrome, and you're still having to take medication. That's such a strange thing, because you would think that if stress was caused by living that stressful lifestyle, which we think it is, I wonder why the stress conditions didn't go away when you stopped living that way.
Because the lifestyle is so ingrained in you, and you can't stop the addiction process, which is your crutches that you lean on when you feel most stressed and vulnerable. And that's why when I did go to another clinic with the advice of the Mayo Clinic, it was the manager clinic, and I noticed that some of the patients were doctors, top business people from all walks of life, but they always kept coming back. And so I decided to be a crusader, and I studied and befriended every patient I could to understand their lifestyle, what medication they take, what condition they've got, what tendencies of what they reach for when they're stressed. And when I looked at it all, and according to the Mental Health America survey here, most of us are worried about finances. Next on the list is health, and third is employment. And I thought, I've got no problem with finances, as you would say, Justin and Kate. But you know what I realised? I started to analyse people who were famous, who had no financial issues, who had a lot of fame, fortune, and some of them who were doing their passion. Because I thought, where is the stress and all of that? And what it led me to was Elvis Presley. I analysed his life a lot. Karen Carpenter. Recently, people like Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. I analysed a little bit Princess Diana and other people. And what I found was it's all to do with the neurochemistry and the stress response. Because those people had no real financial issues. They were powerful enough to say no. They were carrying out their passion. But what you look at is, you look at Elvis, for instance. He had everything, but he became obese and he had enormous addictions. You look at Karen Carpenter, her voice was amazing, but look what happened. She had insomnia a bit. She started taking sleeping tablets. She developed the serious mind condition that all comes from stress, being anorexic, and died of heart failure young. And as for Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, I don't think I need to talk about all their issues. But, just goes on and on.
Wow. This is fascinating. We have to take a little break here, but we're with Paul Huljich. And if you are stressed, and which a lot of us are, I would highly recommend his book called The Stress Pandemic, The Lifestyle Solution. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment. And I'm really interested in the fact that the book is based on a lifestyle foundational protocol, not necessarily what you can do in the moment, although there are some things that we'll talk about with him that we can do in the moment. But the foundation is what he's talking about in his book, is setting up an entire lifestyle that it promotes a calm, peaceful lifestyle. So we'll talk to Paul about those types of issues when we get back. And don't forget to check out his website, stresspandemic.com, and we'll be right back after this break. The history of heat therapy dates back over 2,400 years, and it was Hippocrates who said, "Give me the power to produce fever, and I will cure all disease." This FDA-approved medical device called the Biomat is a mat that you can lay on, read on, sleep on, do yoga on, sit on, and it can be used on office chairs, massage tables, and the like to help the body heal itself. It's inlaid with 30 pounds of healing crystals using amethyst and a rare black tourmaline, producing negative ions in a healing electrical field. These healing crystals help to restore cellular health by replacing electrons to the atoms, as well as penetrating deep into the body by 4 to 6 inches. What can the Biomat do for you? It'll improve your skin, burns as many calories as if you went jogging for 30 minutes. It improves the immune system by up to 40% or more, reduces stress and fatigue, removes toxins, lowers cholesterol, relieves pain, revitalizes cellular metabolism. It improves cell channels to deliver nutrients and oxygen to every one of your cells. It activates over 3,000 enzymes. And even a Harvard medical study showed cancer cells die at over 42 degrees Celsius. It reduces stress hormones by up to 78%. It allows your body to produce heat shock proteins, which increases endorphins, NK cells, T cells, and lymphocytes. It's very, very low EMF, and it's got a 17-layer technology. Dr. Mark Serkis is the director of the International Medical Veritas Association. Explain to us more about these biomats.
These biomats are these far infrared mattresses. You lay on them, or you sleep on them, or both. You do very heavy treatments during the day, and at night you sleep at just a nice comfortable temperature. These biomats are like these love machines, comfort machines, and healing machines, because what they do is they just radiate out light, far infrared light, and you can radiate yourself all night long while you're sleeping when you're not doing anything else. And what happens is this light penetrates the body and turns to heat. And the first thing that happens when you bring your core body temperature up 1 degree is your immune system strength increases by 40-50%. They feel when you lay down on them, you guys know, you have one. So it's like the feeling is so good. It's like being in the cuddling with a lover, your wife or husband. It's just warmth and comfort.
How are you using biomats for patients in your clinics?
The cancer treatment using heat is very aggressive, meaning during the day, you sandwich yourself in between 2 of them, turn it on to high heat, and bake the cancer. The cancer will die before you will. No, this is, you can awesome. Go to England and spend $20,000 and use microwave a cancer out of existence. These biomats basically do the same thing. Radiation therapy for cancer is really a solid idea. Unfortunately, oncologists use the wrong radiation. They use radiation that kills you. This biomat uses radiation that can save your life and make your life more comfortable, keep you warm in the cold, and help take care of your kids and all, the list doesn't end.
Yeah, because isn't there some sort of temperature at which cancer cells will start dying?
Right, and it's below the temperature that human cells will die.
So you really like this biomat far infrared technology, don't you?
But it's strengthened me. Well, now the kids are addicted to it. They fight on who's going to sleep on it at night. And it not only changed my life, but it changed my medical practice and my books. This is a great machine for anybody who lives in the cold during the winter. Instead of heating a big house, you just heat yourself. Bottom line, it brings good feelings. Just lay on this biomat, and it gives the strength back.
I can attest to that indeed. Kate and I love ours, and we think you will too. Learn more about these amazing biomats at extremehealthradio.com/biomat. Or you can check them out in our store as well. Again, that's extremehealthradio.com/biomat.
100% Listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
Well, it's a cold, cloudy morning here in Southern California, isn't it, Kate?
I know. We were laughing last week, and Daniel Vitalis was jealous, and then I think we jinxed ourselves.
I know, right? It's finally became fall. It's cloudy, a cold, wintry day here.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a good fall season. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode. It's episode number 182. And you can always join us on the live show page, extremehealthradio.com/live. And if you're interested in the biomat that I just ran the ad for, we have Kate just actually laid on it during the break. And if you have any questions about it, please let me know. I'd love to help you out if you have any questions about the biomat. It's a great piece of machinery, I guess it's you would call it. Amazing thing. So if you want to ask us about that, feel free to do so. And as the lady said, don't forget to join us on Facebook. We'd love to have you join our community. We're growing all the time, and we're posting links to all of our archive shows as well as our upcoming shows, and you can stay up to date with everything we're doing on Facebook. So please do that. Love to have you join us. And we're with Paul Huljich today talking about stress and his book called The Stress Pandemic.
Quite a story, isn't it?
Yeah, and his website is stresspandemic.com as well. And let's see, before the break, we were talking about some interesting things with people, major movie stars like Elvis and Michael Jackson and all these kind of people. And Paul, I found it really interesting because you said that obviously these people don't have any issues on a monetary side like you did, or you didn't. These people aren't worried about where they're going to be able to eat next or pay their bills, but they're highly stressed out people, aren't they?
Yes, and then I started, when you look at Princess Diana, she had bulimia, but we don't know all the other issues she might have. And then I looked at even people who were presidents or prime ministers of countries, and a lot of them developed very serious mind conditions from stress, whether it was severe depression, bipolar disorder, and they all started to link in with diabetes, cancer, and I started to look into Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. My own grandmother, she died from, she had Alzheimer's, and I was concerned about my own mum. So my research started, initially with nutrition, and then I researched exercise, and at the same time I was looking at all the patients that I had befriended with the lifestyle and also their sleeping patterns. And what I realised is stress causes us to make poor lifestyle choices, and poor lifestyle choices cause stress. It's a perpetual cycle. And I noticed that when we do go to a doctor, we're only going to do something about the symptoms, and it's like putting a Band-Aid on. They never go away, the symptoms of stress.
So why do you think that meditation, because you said you started to do yoga, meditation, do you think that you could have continued with those and gone a little deeper with those to have them affect your stress, or was it the fact that you knew you had to develop this 9-step protocol?
Well, the 9 steps were developed over time, but I thought I need instant results because I was, prior to having the nervous breakdown, practicing yoga, meditation, and of course when the doctor said you need to have massages, I had someone come to my home 3 times a week for that. I was also having counselling, going to a psychiatrist once or twice a week. I was doing everything. But it was too late, and a lot of people develop serious mind conditions when they're ex-CEOs because the lifestyle's already too ingrained, and the destructive coping mechanisms that we lean on when we feel most stressed and vulnerable is so ingrained into our lifestyles we can't give them up. the way I found the cure and how to fight back and break the cycle of stress was all the doctors used to tell me, it's your neurotransmitters have gone haywire, that's why you had a mental breakdown. Or they'd say, you've got a chemical imbalance. And I used to think, well, if it's a chemical imbalance, why isn't the medication healing me? Mm-hmm. And that's how I broke the cycle. I thought, I'm going to study everything to do with the stress response. And the stress response is the trigger effect when the mind and the body goes off balance and goes into fight or flight reaction when you feel threatened or challenged. And when I studied everybody in the clinics and worldwide, because I put a lot of research into this, I realised that our stress responses are on a lot of the time and we don't switch them off. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a rest, because if the stress response is overactivated, the neurochemistry is affected, especially 5 neurochemicals that I studied, because I saw what the drug companies were developing, and they are serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, and endorphins. And of course, I also studied the stress hormone cortisol. And that's how I broke the cycle of stress. I realised that my lifestyle and the way I was living, even though I had stress-releasing mechanisms, whether it's holidays, I thought I was having sleep, I thought I was having reasonably good food, and I was doing exercise, and I was practicing meditation sitting up and everything, and I thought, if that didn't work, what is wrong? And what was wrong is, once you get to understand the neurochemistry and the stress response and how they're linked in time to developing symptoms of stress, the barometer to wellness is, are your symptoms of stress evaporating, going away? Are they getting stronger? Are you developing other symptoms? Because there's so many symptoms of stress, as I said earlier, whether it's anxiety, depression, addictions, anger, hyperventilating, headaches, fatigue, teeth grinding, insomnia, allergies, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, depression, severe depression. They all come from stress. That's how I found the answer.
You know what I love about your work? It's kind of along the lines of the same thing as what we're doing, because a lot of people are looking for answers to stress in the moment, and they're looking for what can I do in the moment, but they want to continue to live their stressful life. And what I like about your book that we have here is that it sets up a foundational protocol to live a stress-free life, so that it's sort of like, if you were to train maybe a karate or martial arts student, and they want to know how to defend themselves if something ever happens. And you give him 1 or 2 things, but the trainer, the black belt, he's going to live his life in such a way that he never gets into that situation to begin with. And that's kind of like what you're talking about, right?
Yes, because if you practice moderation with the things that you reach for when you feel stressed, strict moderation, you don't lose control. But what I found is I was having a dopamine hijack all the time. And when I studied other people, they were having dopamine hijacks. Dopamine stimulates your reward pleasure center. And if you take heroin, you get a quick fix, but it's addictive. You need more and more. So over the years, I needed more alcohol, and I needed more junk food and everything. So even though I was having good meals, I was eating a lot of sugars and fats, grazing in between, or having alcohol for lunch and dinner, or you know what I mean? And I always consider myself a moderate drinker. And I never thought I was eating much rubbish, junk food. And that affects your dopamine, and it affects all those neurochemicals, because serotonin, for instance, my research showed that we've got a second brain. Serotonin, there's 95% of your serotonin receptors down in your gut, in your small intestine. And I realised that, hey, I'm putting too much crap into my body. I need to put more good mood foods. So when I started the nutrition and the exercise, it helped my whole sleep. And I saw changes in me within weeks. And this is with me trialing, trying to work out how to do this, because there's no one else who could help me with it. You go to nutritionists and they've got a certain aspect. If you go to a trainer, they've got a certain way of looking at exercise.
Right.
But they're all interrelated. And I noticed no one was ever talking about neurochemistry or the stress response. And the whole idea is to be able to fortify and empower yourself. Like I work hard now. I reckon I work much harder than what I did when I was a CEO and chairman of a publicly listed company, because I've fortified and empowered myself. I have no symptoms of stress. In 15 years, I've never had a relapse. I've had no major surgery. I've had no counselling. I rarely ever get a cold or have any health issues.
Wow.
I take no medication for issues with the mind, nothing.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, Paul, can we do us a little bit of a favor, our listeners, and call you back on Skype? We're having a little bit of a cutout here going on. Do you mind if we hang up and I'll call you right back on Skype?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. Okay.
Great.
Okay.
And we're going to take a break. We're with Paul Huljich, and his website is
StressPandemic.com.
That's right, StressPandemic.com. And his book also is called Stress Pandemic, The Lifestyle Solution. So we'll be right back with Paul right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
Let that stress go. I don't feel very stressed right now.
I don't feel very stressed.
Talking to Paul is it's
a calming experience.
Calming experience.
Yes. Yeah, he's a great guy. StressPandemic.com. Great book, too. And I highly recommend it to all of you who are listening if you're interested in developing some foundational principles in your life. 9 principles that help set up a stress-free life. So highly recommend that. And as the lady said, don't forget to sign up to our newsletter list. You can do that at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe. And we're giving away a free ebook right now called Lessons from the Miracle Doctors, 177 pages from John Barron. And he's an amazing guy, and he's got a radio show and a podcast, and he's written a ton of books, and it sells for $20 on Amazon. So if you'd like to get that for free immediately, I will send that to you right away if you sign up. So you'll also get our weekly show schedule and that kind of stuff. So a lot of good stuff coming out of our newsletter list. Please sign up to that. Keep up to date with what we have going on here. And Kate, you had a really interesting question for Paul.
I do have a question, Paul. Not a week goes by. I work in a hair salon, and I hear people talking about how so-and-so's nephew has bipolar, or their son just got diagnosed with, this. And everyone's common opinion is, yeah, but you can't do anything about that. Like, I've been reading in your book, same thing where you believed for a while that medication, or I guess you never believed that medication was the only way, but these people really buy into that. And I also have heard throughout the years people saying, oh, anxiety and depression go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. What do you think about those two things?
The 9 natural steps have been tested under the toughest of circumstances, and I remember a lady who interviewed me. She was concerned about her granddaughter and rang me after the show. Her granddaughter was only 5 years of age and said that she's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she's upset because her daughter feels with the doctor that she needs to go on medication. And I said, well, if you don't mind in confiding in me the lifestyle of the family, especially the mum and the daughter. And she went through, yes, she's a high achiever, works very hard. An auntie looks after the grandchild at times, and she has other people having to look after her. And I said, well, has there been a breakup in the relationship? And she said, oh, yes, that's happened. And I said, oh, okay. I says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you a few tips, a few suggestions, and you see what happens. And I said, just write this down. First thing is, you must get your granddaughter to do these things and just see what happens. The first thing is, when she gets up early in the morning, she has to get up about half an hour earlier than what she does to go to school. She's to drink a full glass of water, as much as she can drink within reason at room temperature. I would like you to prepare some juice, some vegetables, and I gave her a list of what to juice. And I said, then I'd like you to hold her hand and take her up and down the street for a walk for about half an hour to 40 minutes. I said, as soon as she comes back, you're to give her the juice. After that, allow her to have a shower, get ready for school, and then give her oatmeal, give her something more natural. No sugars. Be careful of what sort of cereals you're giving. It has to be very natural. I said, from there, make sure that you cut down the sodas, the sugars and fats. When it comes to dinner time, after dinner, don't allow her a lot of stimulation with games or computers. If she's going to watch television, make sure it's not overstimulating with a lot of noise. When you put her to bed, I would like you to touch her tummy. Rub her tummy extremely gently. I says, then move up to the forehead and stroke her forehead, and then tell her how much you love her. Tell her how special she is. And I said, do not over allow her to hear arguments or anything like that. And I said, just keep it simple. That's all you need to do. Well, anyway, the grandmother rang me back within 10 days and she said, what an enormous difference. She's now talking to the daughter about it all. And I said, well, you can see it's back to nature. You know, nature's the magic. It can heal. But you've got to keep it there for a while. I said, that'll be the challenge, that they're prepared to change the lifestyle to allow the mind and the body to heal, because that little girl had a lot of stress, a lot of turmoil in the family. Children are very emotional, and even if there's no stress or no divorce in the family, if there's hardship, financial, let alone bullying at school or parents wanting their children to do well, there's competitions to, do well in class, it's tough. So their stress response can be activated. It affects those 5 neurochemicals and the stress hormone cortisol. Because your stress hormone, when it's activated, it's 50 times greater. So you need to do any heavy lifting, arguments, or anything that's challenging. You should do it in the morning. You do not do it in the evening. And I said to the grandmother, please do not allow her to go and do the walk at nights. It's no good. It'll stimulate the serotonin. And what will happen is she might crave cookies, or she might have trouble where the serotonin won't become melatonin at night, and then she'll have a restless sleep.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you want to ask another question?
No, I find it fascinating.
It's interesting, Paul, in your book, you have your 9 steps here, your 9 natural steps, and one of them that stood out to me was step 4, affirmations. Tell me a little bit about how those work.
Well, over time, we're conditioned into certain lifestyles, and people are always telling us our shortcomings, and we make a lot of mistakes. As I keep saying, the world is a bit of a bullying place, and we don't know how to say no. And what happens is, because we make mistakes, we have a lot of bad experiences, which we carry around as our baggage, as I call it. And when you feel stressed, you always reach for the past. And when you've got anxiety, we've always got issues, worried about the future. Am I going to keep my job? I'm worried about losing my partner. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about all sorts of things. The mind jumps. And what happens with all of that is you've got to break the cycle. And the way to break it is to have some powerful affirmations that don't take long. These steps are for us Americans who are on the go. We haven't got time to waste. So you can do these affirmations, and you can pick a couple of them. There's some suggestions in the book whereby they only take a few minutes. Just think of a child, the granddaughter that I spoke about. I said, well, you think of the granddaughter. When we were kids, we all learnt to pray before we went to sleep. Well, you just say the powerful affirmation 10 times before you drop off to sleep. And as soon as you wake up, before you get out of bed, you say the affirmation that you've chosen. Now, that is very, very powerful, because one, you're going to sleep on a very positive note. All right? And what happens is, when I told you about me grinding of the teeth, it's because of me being upset with issues during the day. It plays out while you're sleeping. And that's why a lot of people wake up and have insomnia. They're troubled with what was happening. A lot of people have their arguments and pay their bills late at night, and they get overstimulation. And that's why people are deprived of sleep.
It's interesting, in preparing for the show, I was thinking a lot about stress and thinking about where it comes from. And there's a lot of external sources, obviously, for most of us in our life. Trying to get to appointments on time, or trying to get to here and there, and feeling like you're going to lose your job if you're late, or things like that. But really, it seems like at the core of it, at least from what I can determine, stress seems to stem from fear and a lack of control, doesn't it? you think?
It is fear, lack of control, and because of news, because of advertising, the power of media, corporations, governments, everybody play on two fundamental principles with us human beings. This was another thing that I researched, and it's all to do with fear and greed. If you do well, you can have this home. So why haven't you got this home? Why aren't you going on holiday? Fear is if you don't do this, you'll lose your job or you'll be put in jail. That's just some examples. If you look at a lot of fundamental things, we buy into certain lifestyles because we want to be up with the Joneses, or we want to be accepted, or we think those people look happy. Well, that's what happened to me when I was a kid, and I was concerned financially about many issues. I thought, the people who look happiest are the ones who've got a lot of money.
Right.
They live in a safe neighbourhood. They look really good. But I knew that something was very, very wrong when I was 40, when I achieved everything, had no debt, nothing, no debt whatsoever, millions in the bank. So what's the problem? What's the problem? It was my lifestyle. And the thing is, practicing moderation means that you can still indulge in having a bit of alcohol or having a bit of crap, as I call it, because when I studied Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought those two doctors who founded it did a wonderful job, but I wanted to go a step further. I want to be able to have alcohol again one day, but I don't want it controlling me. I want to control it. Same with junk food. I still want to have a dessert occasionally and have a strong awareness of moderation, an awareness knowing that every action has a reaction and consequences. So if I drink too much alcohol, there'll be huge consequences. If I eat too much junk food, there'll be huge consequences.
Interesting.
Until people get to that place where they're able to actually not be owned by it, but own it. Like in your case, did you have to give up those things, and do you suggest to people giving up those things altogether for a while?
Yes, what happened to me, because my condition was very, very serious, I decided strongly that I'll try and give them up for 12 months or when I'm completely healed. So I found it very hard at first giving up alcohol. I was used to drinking quite a bit, I found out. So I quietly cut down on it, and same with the junk food. But the way to break that cycle, because the dopamine hijack is the kicking your bad habits. I had an obesity problem. I had a pot belly, so I had that, and I also had a serious mind condition. But they're all interlinked. So the practical steps are critical. If you can just find yourself saying a few affirmations, because conceive, believe, achieve, and then you look at your sleep, you'll notice that the sleep and affirmations come after you doing a bit of nutrition and exercise correctly. When you do that, they all work together. And I found later, instead of being a martyr, I was able to say no, and I was able to kick the bad habits. I eventually got off alcohol and all the junk food, and healed myself, and of course the doctors were supervising the whole process and then taking my medication down to zero. I did it with the full support of my medical team and my family. And then once I healed, I started to say, well, I've got no symptoms of stress now, so I'm perfectly cured. Now I'm going to go back to drinking alcohol. I'm going to go back to drinking champagne, red wine, and Corona beers. But I will be doing it in strict moderation. And that's what's happened today. And same with the junk food. I have it occasionally, but I don't have those cravings anymore.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it doesn't own you anymore. And we have a question here from Stella in our chat room, listening live, and she asks about if you are in the throes of a stressful situation, And, a lot of us find ourselves there from time to time. What we would consider to be stressful, because really there's nothing stressful. It's just our reaction to it. But if you're in a situation where you are reacting to stress, do you think it's a good idea to do something a little bit more, like we have a sauna, people go and use these far infrared saunas, or do something like meditation? Or do you think something like a burst fit of exercise would be really helpful in that moment?
In that exact moment, you need time out to get out in the urban gym and give your 7,200 nerve endings a brisk aerobic walk, which actually activates a central pattern generator. It's an aerobic catabolic walk. What happens is those 7,200 nerve endings are connected to every part of the brain and the body. So taking a brisk walk will help fortify you, and you'll get earthing, you'll get a lot more vitamin D, and everything will help you in that direction. That is a very practical step you can do straight away. Secondly, depending on what you reach for when you're stressed, you need to cut down on it and quickly try and embrace some good mood foods. Thirdly, if you're under a lot of stress, you've got to drink water, room temperature, no ice. And don't drink close to your meals. And have an awareness that if people are challenging you or bullying you a bit, you've got to take time out and say, oh, look, I can't talk to you right now. If you're going to have a meeting with someone, try and fortify yourself in the morning and have these challenging situations in the morning part of the day. Do not have them in the late afternoon and evenings.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that, because like she mentioned the sauna meditation. Maybe that's something for fortifying your foundation. And then if you're in the throes of a stressful situation, like you said, go out for a brisk walk or do something where you exert yourself in the moment.
That's good stuff to know during the holidays coming up with all the hustle and bustle, to really be aware of taking that time to, in the moment, de-stress yourself.
Yeah, and another quick way is at night, if you can't sleep or you've had an argument or something's troubling you a lot, you should run a hot bath, all right, and hop into it. If you've got some salts or something, of course that all helps, but if you haven't, like lavender, just hop into the bath and stay in the bath for 40 minutes. Wow. Very warm.
I like that. And then you could do that right before bed, right?
Pardon?
You could do that right before bed.
Yes, it'll help you a lot. That's for someone who's very stressed. That's what they need to do.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for being on and for sharing your website, stresspandemic.com, and your book, Stress Pandemic, as well. I appreciate all your work in this area.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it very much.
You're so welcome. And do you have anything special that you're working on? I know you do a lot of speeches and things. Are you working on anything coming up?
Well, I'm always out there wanting to help people on the front lines, trying to kick their bad habits. And I've been on a 30-city tour of the United States, all over the country. And I wrote Stress Pandemic on the rock, and as I keep trying to reach out to everyone of all walks of life, I work with National Alliance for Mental Illness a lot, and I work with people who are stressed due to stress in the workplace, all sorts of people, that prevention's the key. Prevention's far better than recovery, and your symptoms of stress are your barometer.
I love it. Wow. Well, thank you, Paul.
I highly recommend your book as well. I'm in the middle of it right now, and I can't wait to finish it. But I think that if anyone wants to dig deep, to definitely purchase your book, Paul, because you go so much deeper into all the steps and your story, which is just amazing to see how you've turned it around and you're able to just really touch people's lives. And thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and we will be in touch soon.
Well, thank you.
Well, there's one of the most nicest men you'll ever meet, isn't he?
Isn't that the truth?
Is that correct? The most nicest? No.
The most nice man?
Most nice.
One of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I think you could say
right.
that.
Yeah, he's a really great guy, isn't he?
He's great. I'm really enjoying his book. I'm not just saying that. Like, I think in the last year and a half, I've been through some of the most stressful times that I can remember, and I just resonated with a lot of things in that book, and they're practical, and I also feel like it's just always great to have coming from a person who's really been there. I mean, talk about I don't know how much more there you can be than what Paul went through.
Yeah, with his symptoms, I mean, I feel stressed at times, but I haven't had any of those symptoms. I mean, he's handing out money at gas stations.
No, I mean, that's
thinking
an extreme.
Walk on water, that's pretty extreme.
I've had my bouts for sure with anxiety and depression, and as a little kid, which was a hard thing to deal with, but I remember those times and how really challenging they are. So, take that times and magnify that times 20, and that's, I'm sure, not even close to what he was going through. So,
yeah, it's interesting too, because we didn't get into a lot of this, but with our kids and how we're signing them up to soccer and to baseball and to all these activities, and even for ourselves, we're doing all these different activities. It just seems like we're running around like in the rat race, go, go, go.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating.
Feels like we're creating half the pandemic or more.
Yeah, like it's
I'm
just
sure.
crazy, because what I like about his book is, we talked a little bit about things you can do in the moment, but I love how it's like setting up a peaceful foundation for your life.
I think that's where it's at.
And then you could do these things in the moment if things pop up.
Right, but they are little Band-Aids along the way. You got to get to the wound,
But what's the point of having a ton of different colored Band-Aids if you keep cutting yourself with a knife?
Right,
I mean, it's it makes no sense. And I like the way he's got that whole foundational approach to setting up a peaceful life. And you know what I think too, and a lot of times in stressful situations, I'll take a deep breath and I'll just breathe. And then I'll let it all out. And then I'll just think to myself, in 100 years, this isn't going to matter.
You won't remember it.
No one is even going to know if this was a stressful day. They're not even going to remember. You know what I mean?
There are very few days and moments in your life when you really think back that have those defining times. Everything else just blurs together. So you're right. None of it. We won't remember it. No one will remember it in 100 years from now.
Yeah, it's...
You're right.
It's interesting,
Put
too.
some perspective.
Because thinking about where stress comes from, a fear and lack of control, whenever we're afraid, if we're late to work and the boss said the day before, if you're late one more time, you're going to be suspended or you're going to be fired or something. And we think, well, we're afraid of losing our job. That's fear. Well, why are we afraid of losing our job? Because it's a well-paying, prestigious job. Jobs are hard to come by. If I lose my job, I'm not going to be able to support my family. But realistically, the worst case scenario never seems to happen. And if you're kind and copacetic and apologetic, if you are late that next time, you can sit your boss down and you can usually get out of whatever threat that he gave you. And the worst fears never seem to happen anyway.
It's true. I mean, years and years when I went to counseling and things, I remember I've always been told the things that you fear the most are usually the things that will never ever happen to you.
Never happen.
It's true. I'm not saying that that's true for everyone, but in my life so far, it has seemed to be told true.
Yeah, you go down these stressful, negative thinkings, and then you paint a scenario that will never even happen.
It's the what ifs, and that's just such a dangerous road to start. Plotting down, really,
and feeling like you don't have any control of your life, and that kind of thing.
I love how he did say though that to have those conversations that that you absolutely know are going to be more stressful than others, have them in the mornings, or do the things that are going to take the most out of you in the morning. Not and I'm not saying that he's saying to create a bunch of stress in the morning, but I had a friend one time tell me that mornings are wiser than evenings, and that always stuck with me. It's true. You're not going to win anything. Nothing good's going to come from a midnight fight with someone, or things get all stressful and emotional at night. And
right.
Nothing good. It's like nothing good ever happens at a bar at 3 a.m. It's that kind of thing, you know? So I've always really kept that in the back of my mind. And that's what I find interesting about the holidays with the stresses coming out. Everything typically revolves around nighttime dinners, nighttime, then
shopping at the mall.
Shopping at the mall, getting out at night, everything's dark, everything's crazy, everything's stressful.
Right.
It does take a lot out of the stress of it just to do things like that in the morning. I know that sounds like probably a very impractical thing for a lot of people, but
yeah, the way I was thinking
in my
about
life, it seems to be true.
I like what he said too about what you were just saying about how not to do things late at night or in the evening, even part of the day that are stressful. And I think about, you know, the EKG where the lines go up and down in these wave patterns. And I just thought about that probably applies to the day. So the most stressful thing that you can do, if it's a stressful meeting or if it's
a phone call you have to make,
a CrossFit thing where you're doing exercise or a presentation, if you can get that done at no later than noon or so, or 2 o'clock, then the rest of the day should be coming down from that.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. I think that was a good thing I'm going to take away from this show.
I think so too.
Yeah, is that to really plan your day so that the most stressful point of your day, sort of like having, you know, your biggest meal in the middle of the day.
Right, which we've changed, and it really does help.
Yeah.
It's little things like that. I know back in school, you know, when we'd volunteer to do our presentation, I'd always try to get it done first thing in the morning because I just didn't want it lingering over me. It doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It just meant that it took the rest of the day's stress and worry away, and I took the power back. You know, I got through it and then didn't ruin a whole day, you know.
Right.
It ruined the morning, but, you know, looking back at that whole situation was just crazy anyway. But, you know.
Yeah, it's
I think you're right.
I think we have to do so many things. I think stress is the biggest. Stress is more important. Stress management is more important than diet. It's more important than anything.
I think so too.
In our culture, I think stress is what's causing us to live shorter lives. I think stress is what's causing disease. More so than food, nutrition, diet, anything, exercise. If we could figure out how to deal with stress, because it's the stress that's constantly on us, Peter Ragnar talks about being chased by the lion. And if you're chased by a lion, you have this incredible amount of cortisol that just bursts, and all your blood, your circulation moves away from your vital organs and goes to your muscles where you need it so you can run. But the problem is that we're being chased by low-level lions all day long.
All the time, right.
And our body doesn't understand that there's this stress that's constantly being poured out. And so learning how to deal with stress and setting up your life to be a peaceful life, the way you interact with one another, with the way you communicate, whether or not you cut each other off and there's 4 people talking at once, or how you do everything is I think, directly related to stress, and that relates to what diseases we get and how long we live. You know, crazy.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, check out the book, Stress Pandemic: The Lifestyle Solution, and that's what we're all about. We're not into quick fixes or quick tips you can do in this stressful moment so that you can keep living your stressful lifestyle. We want to change your entire life.
Yeah.
So that's what this book's about, Stress Pandemic, and we'll have a link to this book too on this show page. If you want to buy it on Amazon and support us, you can go to this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/182. And we want to thank everybody who was in the chat room and everybody who listened live. We thank you for joining us live. And if there's ever anything we could do for you, let us know. And we'd love to help you out in any way we possibly can. And if you can do us a favor and share this show with your friends on Facebook.
Because who doesn't have stress?
Who doesn't have stressful friends, right?
Or that.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
So if you could, we would be so grateful if you guys could do that. Just share it on Facebook or share it on Twitter, something like that. That'd be great. And thank you all for listening. If there's ever anything we could do for you, let us know. And it's time to go do something non-stressful, right?
I think so. Well, I have to go to work.
Maybe Qigong.
I'm going to take this away. I'm going to take it with me.
Take it with you to work, right?
Right.
Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog and during this podcast is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any of the information on this podcast or in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here